So first of all, just text me. Yeah, thanks, Quintus. It's a bit strange. Okay, thanks, Mohammed. These programs are always a little bit dubious as to sometimes how they work, being a browser. So what I'm going to do is we've got about 150 slides, which I'm not going to go through. I'm just going to go through the key ones and obviously just try and go through the key issues here in about 40 minutes. And I'd like to obviously get input from you guys. So can you text me, Zephyr, if you can hear me? Just text in the box. And Quintus, text. Thank you very much. Okay, good. So basically what we're trying to do is we did a roadshow. Thanks, Quintus, for your vote of confidence there. Good to hear from you. We did a roadshow over the last few months, and we did a physical presentation of this. And it's just really all we want to do with this presentation, just to highlight some of the issues you need to be aware of if you're an engineer or a technologist particularly, but in fact, anyone who's interested in keeping abreast of technology. So my background is I've been sort of working in engineering for the last 40 years. Got quite a lot of experience. And in fact, I was reading about this guy last week. He had a CV of his experience as an engineer. He changed his CV, and he said he had moderate interest, and he's in his 50s. He changed his CV, and he listed all his failures in the CV. He said he's never had so many people try and read it. In fact, I think it went on LinkedIn. And failures, it means just things that he tried to do and he couldn't do. For example, application for jobs, how many jobs he had applied for, how many rejections he got, how many projects he did, how many failures he had. And he said it was quite horrible how many failures he had. But he said, he's been moderately successful despite all that. And people really appreciated having a list of his failures. So I have many failures, but I keep persisting. So I work for IDC and the Engineering Institute of Technology. We run all the way from bachelor degrees to master degrees in engineering. And the purpose of this little presentation is don't let your career opportunities leave you behind at the station. Now, I just want to check with you that you can all see this particular PowerPoint. Can you all confirm that you can see don't let your career opportunities leave you behind at the station? Good, because sometimes people, after about half an hour, say, hey, what the hell? I haven't seen anything on the slides. Are you putting anything on the slides, Steve? And of course I am. So really, as you can see, this guy here is flinging himself after the train, which he's about to miss. And this is the same with us in engineering and technology. So really what I want to do is just briefly talk about significant trends, as you can see there. And probably the most significant trends I'm going to focus on are Internet of Things, which you'll see increasingly coming up. And the other one, of course, is robotics, automation, robots, automation. I just want to spend some time on that as well. So those are the sort of issues I just want to spend a happy few moments talking about. And then I also want to talk about cybersecurity and cybercrime as applied to those particular technologies. So that's the first part. Second part is engineering employment trends. Just want to briefly talk about that. And then what you need to do about engineering education and training. Now, you would expect me to do some hard selling about our courses, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to tell you about a lot of the free courses out there which you can use, particularly things called MOOCs, massive open online courses, which I hope you guys have heard of because they're really fantastic. So that's the agenda over the next 35 minutes. Quintus, does that make sense? Great, thank you very much. Just shout, please text in the box or raise your voices. So first thing is, introduction is, we've had 4 industrial revolutions. We're in the 4th industrial revolution now. Can someone tell me what was the first industrial revolution? Just text it in the box or tell me, speak to me. Zephyr, you can take the microphone and tell me what is the first industrial revolution. Over to you. No comments. I'll ask Quintus there. Quintus, what's the first industrial revolution? What is that? You thought you could just sit back and think of England, didn't you? Or Boxburg. What is the first industrial revolution?
I'm guessing it's going to be basically the beginning of industrial expansion. So, for example, say like when Britain started actually building factories to build railway, etc., etc. Am I on the right track here?
Absolutely right. Thanks, Quintus. In fact, I could have pre-programmed you there, but absolutely right. As Quintus says, the first one was the mechanical one, which is steam water, and that was about 1700s, and that's where I think Quintus is a poet, and that's where you have the quotation in the poem called "The Satanic Mills," where people live like dogs, and children, sort of 12 years old, worked underground in mines and things. So. Um, Great. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Okay. Yeah. Well, you never know, Quintus. There's a lot of very uh, believable robots on the computer, on the web these days, and you're not sure who you're dealing with. But anyway, so the first one's mechanical. The second one was Henry Ford in the sort of late 1800s with the manufacture of the Ford T, Model Ford T. You can have any color Ford as long as it's black. So those are the first two. And they were major impacts. So the first one was mechanical, then electrical. And then in the 60s, we had the digital revolution where transistors, electronic chips became quite useful. They weren't failing and dropping off all the time. So that's really the third one. And the fourth one basically is today, which is coined by the Germans, which is actually software. Basically software, which is not just software in a sort of dumb sense, but software which is highly intelligent, which plays chess. And of course, that's going to make a massive change to the world today. And that's what we've got to watch out for, and that's what we've got to be aware of. So the fourth industrial revolution is going to destroy 47% of jobs in the States in the next 20 years. And that's not just joking, that's actually happening today. In other words, any repetitive job goes. Even, I know you'd be horrified to hear this, even doctors, you'd think are immune to this sort of thing, but doctors, there's already a computer from IBM, which a program, should I say, not a computer only, which can diagnose your sort of any malady or any health problems you've got with considerably more accuracy than a doctor. So it's because it's got this massive database of journal articles, anything possible. So that's happening today. So it's going to make things very much difficult for the middle skill. If you're a hamburger flipper, you're probably still going to have that easy smile when you're earning $5 an hour, and you'll probably still retain your job, but it's not much future for you. And if you're a highly skilled lawyer or creative person, a filmmaker, for example, or a DJ, Quintus, or a disc jockey on the radio, who's highly sought after, you'll probably still retain your jobs without any problem. And in fact, see your salaries go through the roof. But the guys in the middle, the guys who collect the tickets, fill your car with petrol, even the one that you phone up for a quote, insurance quote, they'll all be automated. And that's the big challenge that we've got today. So that's a big challenge which we've got to confront. So really, just to talk now about significant trends in engineering as a result of that. First thing is Internet of Things, very important. That means everything is going to be connected. So I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about that. Robots and automation, that's the other one. And the other issues here, which you'll see, augmented reality, I'm not going to really worry about them. Cloud computing means everything is in a cloud. In other words, you just have a dumb computer these days and you use everything in the cloud. For example, all our labs are in the cloud. And of course, other issues are drones. Big data provides massive detailed information. Renewable energy, we all know about battery storage. That's going to change the dynamics. Anyone in the power industry selling you power has actually got a big problem. For example, in Australia, the amount of revenue from power utilities has dropped dramatically because people aren't buying as much. They're producing it on their roofs of their houses, and worse now for the power utility, they're storing it. So there's a lot of nonsense, hype, but this is very important, battery storage. But the two that I'm going to spend a bit of time speaking about is Internet of Things and artificial intelligence. So can I ask you guys, first of all, robots, has anyone here come across a robot or worked with a robot beside a stupid boss? No, Zephyr? Quintus? Mohammed? No. Okay. Emil? Have you had any robots to deal with? Probably not. Okay, so basically robots, we always associate, no, okay, thanks, Emil. You can call me a robot, Emil, I can live with it. Hopefully you can fix Carol's sound problems, but I suspect it's something to do with a defective loudspeaker, but maybe not. So robotics is a very big growth area, and it ranges from articulated arms, and probably the most famous example of robotics and automation is industrial automation, which has been around for 40, 50 years, building cars, filling bottles with liquid, everything automated by robots. That's fairly standard. But where it's growing in now is, of course, in humanoid robots, construction robots. The opportunities for robotics is enormous. And it was coined a few years ago. So here's a list of other robots: grasping, games in rehabilitation. People have got problems with their arms, they can't move them, so you can get rehab. Robot writer, etc. So there's a heap of different robots around, applications. Now you'd say, yeah, well, okay, fair enough, big deal. But you'll find that because the cost has fallen so much with robots, they're now becoming cost effective. So you can have them in your house, and you can have them in a small business, and you can afford to pay a few $1,000s. You don't need to pay $100,000 or $1 million anymore. So the price has fallen dramatically. So that's going to make a big difference to the application of robotics. So that's one of the first major trends. And of course, the other area where you see robotics used in a sense is, of course, drones. In a way, the other one is vacuum cleaners in houses. It's called the Roomba. You see everyone nowadays buying these things, and again, cost is falling dramatically because everyone and his dog is producing these things at a very low cost. So people are starting to use them, whereas before, expensive, you didn't think about using them. So big challenge for us today, but big opportunity. And the other opportunity with robots or self-driving is self-driving cars. Does anyone here think self-driving cars will be around? Let me pass the microphone around to you, Quintus.
Well, I can't talk for my own country because I think, we're going to, in South Africa specifically, fall behind a little bit. But as far as I know, the UK is trying to get into it as well by around 2018. I think America will probably be in the driver's seat of that right now, excuse the pun. But the thing is, they want to get the entire United States, in terms of all the states, to and they've done this in Congress. They've tried to, across the board, try and get it legalized. So I'm hoping that it slowly trickles down to our country, because I actually think the technology is good.
Absolutely right, Quintus. I think what will happen is we'll have a trickle-down incremental thing. Already, I did a presentation on this topic last week, and the guys are saying, look, the cars they're driving, from Subaru and some of these new cars coming out, they already take control for brief moments in traffic. They do reverse parking. They're already doing some basic things with self-driving. So it's just basically an incremental stage. So you're quite right. The states will be using them first, and will be very slow incremental stuff, like letting your car take over or warning you, hey, brother, you've got a big problem. There's a potential accident. You've got a car half a meter away from you. You better put on your brakes. That sort of thing is definitely happening. And absolutely right. There was a video yesterday where a woman was sleeping in a Tesla Model 6S on the highway. Can you tell us about that, Quintus?
As far as I know, the Tesla Model S, because they're busy building the Model 3, but the Model S, there was a woman, because it has an autopilot feature, but I think they've only perfected it for highway driving. So she was basically stuck in a traffic jam, and all the car needs to know is that I'm in this lane and I'm going to keep inching forward. So she actually took a nap while driving. So I mean, she was on the highway and taking a nap. So yeah.
That's amazing. That's incredible. Yeah, no, that's something because Tesla apparently hired 8,000 programmers or something in the last few months just to focus on producing a self-driving car. So they really are taking it seriously. So definitely, it's happening already in Australia. You see these trucks are all automated. So in a mine pit, for example, completely self-driving, no messing around at all. They're definitely completely autonomous, do the whole thing already. So there's no humans involved at all. And if there is any driving, it's often done from a few thousand kilometers away. So that's already happening today because it's cost effective. So robotics, massive growth, and that's going to change things because the cost has come right down. And that's, again, economics 101. So really, it's going to transform things dramatically. And as I said, we are probably a little bit cynical about robotics, saying it belongs to the industrial automation area, building cars. But believe me, it will be in your home and it will be costing you a few $100s. So that's going to make a big difference in the next few years. There's another few examples here. This guy here has put together some ferociously good examples of robots. I mean, they're just amazing what you can see. Then the next thing I just want to spend a few minutes talking about is Internet of Things. Can anyone tell me what Internet of Things is? Any suggestions there? Internet of Things? What's it? You can take, if you can't talk, you can just text it in a box. Very cautious out there, guys. Okay, Internet of Things is nothing more than just having a big spiders network connecting everything together. So every little item which has got some potential ability to sense pressure, temperature, or operate actually is connected. So you'll find that your car, for example, is a good example where everything is already connected. And you'll find that this is everything in your house, in a factory, all will be connected. And you'll be able to use an app on your phone and, of course, see things. So it's really just interconnectivity of physical devices. So again, you may say, well, big deal. What's that going to help me? Well, in the factory, for the last 100, well, I would say not 100 years, but for the last 80 years or so, we've had, since the 60s, we've had devices connected together on little networks. Yep, thank you very much, Mohammed. Connecting information to the cloud database, absolutely right. So all we're trying to do with the Internet of Things is connect things together. In the factory, we've had instruments all connected together, and then you have a sort of computer here, and of course you monitor what's going on. That's pretty well standard. But this model, which I'm circling there, will be applicable to your home, your work environment, everywhere. So just really interconnecting everything together. And again, the idea is that it'll be done very low cost. So instead of spending thousands of dollars per sensor, you'll probably spend a few dollars, $1 or $2 for a sensor to gather information. So there's 4 items to do with Internet of Things. One is people, obviously. We obviously hopefully will be serving someone. The process, what you want to do with that information. And this is where big data comes in, because you have millions and millions of data points streaming in all the time. You need some processes to decide what to do. And then, of course, you've got the data there, which you need to process. And finally, things are where you're gathering information from and where you're sending it to. So that's Internet of Things. And probably the best examples are transport, home. Those are the best examples. And at the moment, we're in 2016. So at the moment, there's about 25 billion items that are connected. By 2020, there will be 50 billion items connected. That's a ferocious number. That will make a big difference, whether you're in the renewable energy area, transport, energy production, homes, entertainment. Will be huge different things. When you think that there's only about 7 million humans, we're going to have 50 billion smart objects. It's amazing. So this, again, will make a big impact on gathering data. And there will be someone needs to obviously process all that data. And that's where engineers, technologists. So probably the most famous example of Internet of Things will be rail operations, everything from passenger security, critical sensing, route optimization, using IoT, smart city, everything in your city is connected. And again, that's happening today, not tomorrow, now. And then, of course, the connected car, which we've spoken about till we blew in the face. That's obviously a big growth area. The biggest challenge with the Internet of Things, and that's going to create a big opportunity. Yep, I'll come to your point, Mohammed. Thank you very much. Very, very valid point there. The biggest challenge is obviously billions of interconnected objects. And of course, we all know about internet security, big problem. So your hackers have an enormous opportunity to go through the sensors. If there's 15 billion sensors out there, the hacker opportunities are enormous. And there's already hackers that have got through the sensors into your database and distributed credit card records and stuff like that. So question for Mohammed there, which is very valid, and I want to throw it open to the floor and see if there's any comments there. Will there be any privacy? And the answer is that is a major issue, especially with ability to hack into the system. Will there be any privacy? There will have to be strict regulations here as to what you do with the data, and I'm sure there will be big problems with data privacy. Absolutely. Let me ask anyone here, maybe Quintus, you've got any comments about privacy?
Yeah, as you say, I think it will probably be a big problem because, I mean, if you've seen any of these websites lately, like Ashley Madison and those kind of websites that, aren't connected to it's on the internet and their data is freely published there. I mean, credit card numbers can be freely published on the internet now because it's so, open source. But I also wanted to make just a reference to especially what can breach Internet of Things networks. I just wanted to remind the group about what happened in the Ukraine, because the Ukraine also have a system that is connected to, their energy system is connected to the industrial Internet of Things, and hackers actually were able to hack into that industrial Internet of Things, and they were able to take the Ukraine's entire energy system down. So, I mean, if we're going to do this, both privacy but also security are probably good things to think about.
Yeah, thanks. That's really interesting comments there, Quintus. The Ukraine, I mean, to bring the whole power network down is quite horrific. So those are major issues that we need to consider. And of course, guess what? Those problems will get worse now. So that's where there's a huge opportunity for cybersecurity specialists. Again, everyone looks at it, and here's a few examples here. Security exposures, farm feeding system in the US, mine ventilation system, hydroelectric plant in the US. These are all being hacked, and the Internet of Things will make the problems worse. So there's a lot of opportunities out there, and with all these growth in all the different areas. And welcome, Jean Taylor, to join the group. Thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully you can hear us. If you can hear us, maybe you can just text. Just text in the box. Basically, huge opportunities with all these different areas. And as I said, I've just spoken about 2 items, but obviously there are obviously a lot of threats as well. Thanks, Jean. That's good to hear. Our organizer in London can't hear properly, so it's a bit distressing that, but I think it's to do with the speaker. But anyway, thanks. So there's huge opportunities out there, but there's a whole list of other opportunities which we will give you in the full set of slides, which you'll get. I've only scratched a few of them because we only have limited time. You definitely don't want to listen to my voice for more than 40 minutes before you go crazy. So basically, the idea is to grab these opportunities today. Can I have any suggestions on how you can apply these in a business sense? Any suggestions how you can put some of these ideas in a business case for a company? Just any suggestions? Over to you. Quintus, maybe you can kick off. Gene trying to talk there, I think. Gene, I'm sorry, we couldn't hear you. Oh, okay. For a minute or two. Oh, I'm sorry about that, Quintus. Yeah, we're just looking for suggestions for any business ideas. So any business suggestions from all those opportunities which we've listed here. And as I said, you will get the full set of slides. This is just an abbreviated set of slides. Okay, so let me just go. That, by the way, that was a barking dog. It's at my foot here at the moment. I'm presenting after hours. Let me just run through those lists here. I'll just quickly jump back to that. I've got a Labrador here who's a bit... Okay, here we are. Bingo. So really, these are the trends. Yeah, the trends... oops. Just jumping around too much. So really, as I said, cybersecurity and cybercrime, you can set up a business there tonight. There's enormous opportunity there. Obviously, people don't believe they have a problem. So that's a challenge at the moment, but you can guarantee big business does know there's a problem, banking and stuff like that. Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, smartphones, obviously writing apps, which we know about. Virtual and augmented reality, that's also a big growth area. Cloud computing obviously has been around for the last 5 to 10 years and shows definite benefits. Virtual collaboration between different teams around the world. So when you set up a company, you use people from all over the world. Drones, I mean, the opportunities of drones are just amazing. We were looking at business cases yesterday, from mine sites where you're monitoring trucks to doing pipeline inspections with your drones to mapping your home to put on a real estate site. The opportunities there are amazing. Renewable energy and battery storage. Well, battery storage is the big growth one. Renewable energy has been around for quite a few years, but battery storage is going to shake things up dramatically. So those are all significant trends which one has to grab. So maybe I'll just ask, just to recap on this, Quintus, maybe you can make a few suggestions of how to make a business case on any of these.
I know for certain that guys in Australia, where you are now, Steve, specifically started installing energy storage systems, and there wasn't a lot of policy behind it. Like there wasn't a lot of regulation. So, I mean, those guys jumped on installing energy storage systems quite quickly because there was no policy from government as of yet, which, I mean, it's a good thing that they were thinking in an entrepreneurship kind of brain to go, okay, cool, energy storage is big, let's sell energy storage. But the problem is, what is the safety behind that energy storage? But I mean, that's the thing. Now people are seeing that there are business opportunities in installing things like energy storage.
Absolutely right. Yeah, there's a big challenge at the moment, particularly in Australia. There's no real standards as to how you install things. So you've got a lot of, yesterday I was flipping hamburgers. Now I will install your energy storage system for your house. there's a lot of challenges with illegal working, and safety is a big issue now. Especially the problem with energy storage, I believe, is that you've got a lot of energy in one particular spot, and there's all sorts of issues with lithium batteries, as we know. So there are a lot of safety issues involved, but people getting in now, providing business cases, I think we'll find that there are big opportunities selling that to people. The biggest challenge, I think, with energy storage is that the utilities themselves are in the horrible position that people are buying less of their product because they've got, solar panels on roofs, and then once they put in energy storage, they'll be buying even less power than before, which means that the poor old utilities will be selling less, which means that typical utility, the only thing you can do when you start selling less is you jack the prices up, which means, of course, you sell less and less again. So you have this vicious circle that you've got to endure, and which means that there's even more opportunities for selling energy storage and running a business in that area. So I think all these trends will come together. Internet of Things will be used with energy storage, monitoring your power consumption in your home. I was talking to a guy yesterday who's got a little business. He connects up the household security systems, their reticulation for the garden, their home entertainment. He's put it all together on one little app, and the householder can monitor wherever he or she is around in the world as to what's going on in their home. So, they can actually get a view of what's going on. And, of course, cameras as to see what's going on with the dog sleeping in the corner of the house. So that's all happening, and he's put it together for a very low cost. So those are big opportunities. So any suggestions from anyone else before I look at energy engineering employment trends? Okay, let's move on then. So energy engineering employment trends, I've taken, each country has different requirements. So, I've just taken, for example, the USA. I just want to talk about USA, Africa, Europe, and Australia, just to take a few examples. Now, in the US, of course, you've got a big, strong design and manufacturing going on there. Although, which country is the number one country in the world for manufacturing drones? Any suggestions? Just text it in the box there. Which country? No clue, Quintus. Well, funny enough, the country that, Israel, good, USA. Oddly enough, I was quite shocked to find out that the country that's making drones, and that's what's driving the price down, is China. They're the biggest producer of these things now. So, when you see these guys manufacturing drones, the price is going to go one way down, and of course, drive the demand even further up. So China, thanks, Zafer. China is the number one, strange. So USA obviously do a lot of design, very strong there. And of course, Australia and countries like Africa, or countries in Africa, and Canada, for example, very strong on mining and agriculture. So they all have different systems. So really in the States, for example, just to say, there's 1.6 million engineering jobs, which is quite a significant number. Civil engineering, as you'd expect, is the number one, and then followed by mechanical, industrial, and electrical. Job growth, solid 7%, but of course others like petroleum, bad news because of the collapse in oil price. But again, like everything, you'll find it going up again, although it won't go up to the same heady heights. Geologists, geological engineers, not so good. And the other big growth area is biomedical engineering, because they're making so many biomedical devices. Would you find a big demand for biomedical engineers in Australia? No, because there's not enough manufacturing. Would you find a lot of demand for biomedical technicians in Australia or other countries? Definitely, because hospitals are automating. So there's, different areas have different folks are doing different things. Technicians, fewer technicians than engineers, but, and of course, electrical engineering technicians are the biggest position, and then followed by mechanical, typically younger, workforce and for engineers. And here's just a list of the top bachelor degrees, which also is quite interesting: accounting, computer science, finance, and then mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, etc. So engineering's near the top, but not exactly at the top. So that's a challenge. The other issues, obviously, are engineering is generally offers the greatest job opportunities, even during the good old Great Recession. Engineering trucked on. Companies went bust, but engineering still gave you good opportunities. And of course, biomedical engineering was the greatest. And of course, now with the energy production changes with batteries, energy, that will also be a big growth area. So what you need to do is obviously look at the country you're in and then make a consideration there. For example, the UK, Europe would have very similar experiences to USA, but obviously not manufacturing at the same level. If you're in South Africa or Canada or Australia, then of course mining, although it's reduced now, and agriculture would be the biggest opportunities, and typical building, construction, that sort of thing would be a big opportunity. And again, engineering is a big growth area. Probably the biggest opportunity is, as I said before, these new technologies which will need to be applied in these different countries. So, for example, Internet of Things, you're going to need to have technicians installing and engineers doing the design. And same thing with automation. You may say, look, the robots are manufactured in the States, but I need someone to link them together and do all the work here in a particular country, and I'll need an design engineer and a team of technicians to maintain them. So those will all have very good outcomes for more employment for engineering around the world. Very strong science, technology focus. So just my last, we've got about another 10 minutes. I just want to obviously just talk briefly about your career. Has anyone here, obviously you're all employed, so you know what employers want. The question is, do you get education first or the job? Well, the answer always is, if anyone says, I want to get a job and I'm going to get the education for it, at the end of the day, employers are always after experience. Experience, experience, experience. You can have as many qualifications as you want, but at the end of the day, you have to try at all costs to try and get some experience related to that job. If you've got the experience as well as the qualification, well, that's fine. That's good. So really, careers will be changing dramatically. Mohammed, you've made a comment there, unstopped circle. What's that mean? You just text there. And Quintus, any comments about careers?
I quickly want to mention, in terms of African engineering right now, you have a lot of guys, saying that you need to get your qualifications and all of that, and you need to go through all of the education first of all. I spoke to a guy that he is at power plants in the DRC, and he's only getting qualifications now because somehow he got into, doing some engineering for the DRC, and a lot of his employers trust him over the guys that have their engineering qualifications right now. Like, he is getting his engineering qualifications, but he's just been getting work experience in the engineering field because somebody, showed him the ropes once upon a time. So, I mean, I do get what you're saying, that job experience is also a big thing compared to having qualifications. But I think qualifications are genuinely important. But yeah, there are some places where you can kickstart your engineering career without doing the qualifications to start with.
Yeah, it's an interesting comment there. In countries where there's a shortage of skills, such as most countries in Africa, for example, and large chunks of Asia, you will certainly have a lot of responsibility thrown on you with minimal qualifications. So you get enormous experience. So absolutely right. Thanks, Quintus. That's a very good point. In fact, when I was in Namibia in March, it was quite amazing to see these guys designing and building power stations with very basic qualifications, advanced diplomas and things like that, and doing a fantastic job, and using software and diagnostic tools at the extreme. Really amazing, actually, really impressive. And then saying, look, I probably need to go and get my engineering degree now that I've got all this experience, because it makes me a little bit more credible. So definitely happening. And in fact, it reminds me, Quintus, quite an interesting comment I was reading a few years ago. In France, a lot of the doctors there wanted to get experience in extreme trauma and patching people up. Now, they obviously didn't want to go to Syria or whatever to go and work there, but a lot of them were doing work in South Africa at Baragwanath Hospital, because they were getting incredible experience when they were straight out of their medical school. They were getting more experience in a year than the guy said I would get in 20 years in France. So a lot of them were working and doing a most amazingly high responsibility, critical work, getting experience with a very basic qualification. So certainly there are opportunities which you can grab if you're clever about it. So thanks, Quintus. That's a very valid point. Obviously, the idea is for you to research your qualifications as to what you want to do. And obviously, we provide courses. But just a few points on skills. Technology is accelerating and change. Business know-how is critical. You need to know the business case for anything you do. You can't just install something because it's nice technology. It's got to have a business case, which irritates engineers because they always like to have the best. But you've got to have a business case for it. Computer literacy, obviously you need basic skills. Project and cost management, very important. People have become aware. And of course, the other issue is what you learn today, unfortunately, won't be valid tomorrow. So you've got to keep learning. And most of your learning is 70% is informal. You acquire it by working with other people. It's the most powerful form of learning, informal learning. So obviously the idea is research, and make sure that your experience is internationally recognized. And there's a lot of new technologies, so you don't need to go to a particular college. So you've got a choice of informal, online with MOOCs, online residential, or online college. Has anyone here used a MOOC? Anyone here with a MOOC? Any comments? MOOCs? Not of yet. These MOOCs stand for Massive Open Online Course. Basically, there's a few guys that provide them. EDX is the one. So if you're not aware of them, you need to research EDX. The other one is Coursera. These are the two, probably the most popular ones. And they have a range of courses ranging from business to engineering. And you can do them for a few $100s. And if you just want to do the course without getting a certificate, you can do it for free. So these things are out there. It's your duty to research them because there's enormous opportunities grabbing those things. And the courses range from how to program Internet of Things to thermodynamics to highly theoretical courses. The challenge of the MOOCs is that they're often very academic, but still they give you a very good basic background. And they will be accepted. Obviously, we provide a lot of courses, and we provide all the way from advanced diplomas to bachelor degrees to master degrees, all online. But you need to research topics to make sure your experience matches what you want to do. And don't compromise with the quality of your education. Very important. Make sure it's flexible, and make sure, if you can, distance learning means, e-learning means you can do it at home. But still very amateurish. Probably the most important thing, I believe, whenever you're researching education, is research who your instructors and lecturers are. Are they highly experienced? Do they know what they're doing? Or are they another academic? Very important that you do that before you commit to any course. So we run a lot of courses, and one of the issues which we find quite interesting is use of remote labs, which adds some value to the presentation. So here's an example of one. Here's an example. We just find one. Just going to give you remote labs. So here's a testing of a 4-pole squirrel cage induction motor. It's a motor, obviously trying to get hands-on experience. So the idea is use the remote labs. We believe that gives you that experience which you wouldn't get otherwise with a standard traditional course. So these courses are becoming more and more sophisticated because everything today has a PC or a computer as an intermediary. So really, just as I say, think about your courses, research your topics very carefully. This is an example of one of our labs. These are sort of equipment sitting in the lab, which obviously we use on the course. So really, just final comment is, bear in mind that there's a lot of opportunities with technology, lots of changes occurring, all the range from Internet of Things to robotics to cybersecurity. The opportunities are enormous. You need to grab them. And of course, you need to then look at your career and make sure that you skill yourself up with experience and the necessary qualifications to keep up to speed. Bearing in mind that 70% of learning is done informally, which is working with other buddies, friends, colleagues in the same area. That's very important. So in conclusion, thank you very much for your time. I'm sorry I've taken so much of your time. I just want to ask, are there any questions? Are there any questions? Any questions, comments? Maybe I'll ask Uncle Quintus, for environmental engineering, which benefits we can gain? Okay. Environmental engineering is a really interesting one. Thanks, Mohammed, for bringing that topic up. That is definitely a growth area. It depends on which country you're in as to whether there's a growth. For example, in Australia, environmental engineering is a lot more challenging to get a job now because they were heavily involved with mining, cleaning up the mess the mines left behind and helping remediate mine sites. That work has dropped off quite significantly. But you'll find that working in environmental areas is definitely another growth area. But I believe where the opportunities are in a developing country, thanks, Mohammed, I think you'll find a lot of developing countries are rather cautious about environmental engineering because they can't, they're not prepared to pay to remediate the environment, but that will change over time. So that's a very good comment. For example, in South Africa, the government there has just given a go-ahead to remediate mine sites. There's a ferocious amount of acid water getting into the water tables. Horrible situation left by old mines, and you're talking about millions of liters, billions of liters of water contaminated. They've now given the go-ahead, so they will be employing thousands of environmental technicians and engineers to actually work on that. So I believe that's definitely a growth area. People want to keep the environment clean, and engineering is a key part there. So I think that you'll see it increasingly happening. And of course, as I said, it goes through cycles. Canada and Australia would be challenging now because there isn't as much mining, so there's not as many people employed in an environmental area to clean up. But it's certainly more. It certainly will have a slow growth. Maybe I'll ask any comments from you, Quintus. I'm quite satisfied, thank you. Okay, fine. Okay, thanks, Quintus. Okay, any other comments from anyone else? In conclusion, I just want to thank you very, very much for attending the session. It took a bit longer than I thought. Thanks, Jean. Thanks, Emil. Thanks, Mohammed. Thanks, Quintus, Zafer, Carol, Mo. And thank you very much for attending. I really appreciate it. You will get a full set of slides. There's about another 80 or 90 guys that couldn't attend the full session. Thank you. So we provide you with the slides. You will get a full set, which will be considerably more than that. Thank you so much for the interaction. And we will stop the recording. You'll get a copy of the recording as well if you want to go back. But thank you very much for stop.